More than 420,000 Australians suffer from chronic wounds each year, and the majority of them in aged care facilities. Hayley Ryan is chair of Wounds Australia and joins us now. Hayley, good morning.
Good morning.
What is a chronic wound?
Oh, a chronic wound is one that hasn't gone away for at least 4 weeks and continues to be problematic for that patient.
And what causes them? I mean, 420,000 seems like a significant number.
It's a huge number. There are a number of things that will actually cause a chronic wound. One is a delay in actually getting some support to actually heal the wound and thinking that it will just go away when it doesn't. But there are other things like comorbidities. If somebody may be living with diabetes, for example. But I don't want people to think that this is just, a wound happens because somebody is unwell. This happens to healthy people all the time and young people.
Okay, what sort of, give us an example of the causes of that then.
Yeah, so, people could go for a basic surf down at the beach, stub their toe in the sand, and then all of a sudden have this horrendous wound. And because of the bacteria in the water, it can progress to something worse, and we start to see an ulcer form. And that's when the person can have problems if they don't get help and they just simply put a Band-Aid on it, for example. And that's one example.
Okay. Now, you've put together an 11-point pre-budget submission. Give us just the dot points on that.
Yeah, we did, and we're hoping for some real government reform because it is really the silent epidemic that we're dealing with. It covers everything from how we can support healthcare workers to increase their knowledge and grow capability, to how we can support the Aged Care Royal Commission. It's time to act on those recommendations, and we can do that to support wound management. There are a number of things in there, including how we can also look at the MBS and start thinking about how we can reduce the out-of-pocket costs to the patient. Some of them are paying up to $1,000 a week on wound care products to deal with their wounds.
And so what are we talking about? Ointments and bandages and dressings and those kind of things?
Yeah, they're quite specific. It's not a simple Band-Aid that people can go and buy from the local store. They're quite advanced products. If we need to heal them quickly and start to really manage those wounds, you need proper dressings, not just a simple Band-Aid.
Now, you're suggesting the treatment of these chronic wounds costs about $3 billion a year in the government's health and aged care budgets. I imagine, though, if you address it properly, the cost is going to be roughly the same.
If we address it properly, it means that we start to look at two things. One is prevention, prevent the wound before it happens, and that happens by growing capability. But also, if we get onto it early, you heal it earlier, so you will reduce the cost.
Okay. One of the things that concerned me, and this was not something I was aware of, but there is no wound prevention or wound care treatment modules in any of the aged care qualifications.
No, not at all. In fact, some of the all of the leading universities, except one being Monash University, don't even have that in their curriculum for registered nurses, doctors and the like. So it's a real disparity. We've got to change that if we're going to move forward on wound management.
But I would have thought wound management was just basic medical care. I mean, I find that extraordinary that nurses and doctors don't know how to do it.
We absolutely agree at Wounds Australia, and that's why we're pushing for reform in that education space as well.
Okay. Are we doing things differently to other countries?
We are. There's some real leading countries in wound management. I think about the European countries, Canada, for example. They're excelling. Sweden, for example, they've got the right processes. They've mapped out what they need to do, and they're executing it. We are very much behind in this area.
I don't know what to say. I find that absolutely extraordinary. That is not something that I was aware of, but I'm glad you joined us to talk about it. Hayley, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
Hayley Ryan is chair of Wounds Australia. You can check out their website, woundsaustralia.com.au. That's just extraordinary, isn't it? That there are no wound prevention or wound care treatment modules in medical or nursing degrees. And particularly in aged care, where the majority of this problem is happening, the certificates 3 and 4 in aged care, no wound management qualifications. You would have thought dressing wounds was I would have thought that would be one of the first things people in medical type fields learnt, but apparently not. Over 420,000 people suffer from chronic wounds every year. That is absolutely amazing. Woundsaustralia.com.au is where you'll find that 11-point plan that they put forward to the federal government in the lead up to the election.